because there are so many people that are new in this sport and they are all always looking for the cheapest and best deal, I'm always on the hunt for high value components and high value parts to recommend because I have so many people asking me for recommendations. I've spent a long time looking through all the cheapest Chinese stuff possible because, I mean, even though I have access to anything I want, I still like good deals. I still like good cheap parts. And one primary thing that I consistently recommend always to everybody is just don't buy the absolute cheapest stuff you can find. Just, it's not good. It's not gonna last. It's not gonna serve you well. It's not gonna perform right. Just spend, 5% more and get something that is actually good or that someone has used, that knows what they're doing and has recommended to you. So these are two frames that I have scoured 3 or 4 of all these Chinese websites. These are both from Banggood, and these are the best frames that I could find that looked reasonable. And I ordered both of them because I wanted to see if one was better than the other, if the carbon held up and how it was. And I'm kind of shocked to say that these frames are really good. They are actually, I would not call them cheap frames at all. This one is $33 and this one is $43. And there are differences between the two, and okay, there are relatively cheap frames. So there are some downsides, and the main downside to them is that they come with cheap hardware, they come with weird hardware, and they have weird designs. And the weird design is really the biggest downside. But like I said, I have scoured a lot of stuff and I've come up with these two that are the best deals that I have found. And I'm going to tell you right up front, I actually learned something from these frames about designing, and I'm not going to tell you just yet because I'm just going to try to work it into my designs. But basically, I don't see the point of spending more than $50 on any frame at all. It doesn't make sense to me. I know that one of my own frames are listed at $69 or $70. I don't even know why. I always try to drive the price lower and make it more affordable for everybody because I don't make any money off any of this stuff. And like after seeing these frames, it just doesn't make sense for anybody to spend more than $50 on a frame. I mean, $33 is a pretty awesome frame. $43 is a pretty awesome frame too. And okay, let's look at the frames. So this one, I have no idea what it's even called. It's apparently the Freedom frame from Trans Tech, and it's $215. Okay, whatever. The frame came with a bunch of other stuff, instructions I didn't even look at. I probably built them all wrong, but I built them how I thought was best. It has motor bumpers, which I wouldn't use because they weigh something, and has these standoff aluminum things, which I didn't use, and it saved like 10 grams. Comes with a battery strap and various other things, and camera mounts. Anyways, the way I built it, I just used regular standoffs, and it's plenty strong. Battery sits on top, which is exactly where it should be, and this frame is just barely long enough to fit a GoPro plus a 1300 milliamp pack. And I would say that it's pretty adequate to fit these if you build it right and you're careful about how you build it. I think it's going to fit them just fine. So any like sub 30 degree GoPro mount or sub 35 degree GoPro mount and a typical 1300 will fit on top of this frame, which is just perfect. It is an H frame, and one thing I'll say is that the carbon on this frame is pretty darn good. It's pretty similar to the carbon that I spent a long time looking for to build my own floss frames from, and it's really freaking rigid. This frame feels absolutely solid, and that was the biggest surprise to me because the Alien frame, which is a legendary frame, actually is not that solid. If you flex it and you bend it and you hold it in your hand, it doesn't quite give you the same confidence as some more recent frames that have come out, and this frame feels drastically more confidence inspiring than the Alien frames. Now I know there's a lot of Impulse RC fans out there, and I do personally like Impulse RC as well. It's a fantastic company. They make great designs, great frames, but this $43 frame, if I had to choose, and again I can have anything I want, I would choose this frame over the Impulse RC frame or the Alien because it weighs 50 grams less than the Alien. This frame, the way you see it here, it weighs 95 grams. That is a very respectable weight, and it has independent arms that you can switch. Again, I scoured the internet looking for a lot of frames, and there's a lot of things that I personally do not like. I've designed a whole lot of frames, and I think that monobody frames are a terrible, terrible idea. One of the biggest issues with monobody frames is that the arms, they often cut the arms incorrectly. They have cross hatching on the arms, which is a bad, bad, bad idea. If you see a frame that has cross hatching on the arms, run away from that frame. Do not buy that frame. It is a bad decision to buy that frame. If you see one at a flying field, just pick it up and flex the arms, and you will know exactly what I mean, because it will feel like the frame is made of cardboard. When you have perfectly linear carbon running down the arms, and on this frame you're looking at it, you see there's cross patterning in this direction. And while this surface doesn't really mean anything, inside all the carbon fibers are linear. They're either running in the vertical direction like this or a sideways direction like this. The fibers in the vertical direction are all intact, so they're all nice and strong. When it's cross hatch up the arm, then it is not strong because the carbon fibers are all cut diagonally, and you're relying on the resin to hold everything together. And that's a very bad idea. You don't want a frame that has crosshatch arms. You really don't want a frame that has crosshatch arms. It is a bad idea to construct, to build, to cut, do anything with a frame that has crosshatch arms. This is a very big pet peeve of mine, because so many people do it and it makes no sense to me. And when you cut a frame that has a monobody, it's very hard to get the arms in such a manner that you can get the carbon running straight down. It has to be an X frame. All right, now let's go to the next frame. I still don't know what this is. It seems like it's from the same company that makes the goggles. I have no idea. Anyways, it's the XH210, whatever it is. This frame also has a similar design in that it came with these like standoff things. I saved 26 grams by not using these things. And it has like a camera mount built into it, which I would just like use a little TPU camera mount or make my own somehow, some way. I mean, you don't need any of this. You literally, I don't think I built the frame correctly, but you literally don't need any of this stuff. This frame is similarly very solid. Both of these frames have a zero play in the arms, zero play, and this frame comes in at 92 grams. Very, very impressive, 92 grams. The top plate on this is a little bit longer, so it still has room to fit a GoPro and a battery on top, which is where I think everything needs to be. And these are, I would say, they're primarily acro frames. They're not so much race frames, but you can use them for racing. It is similarly very strong. The top plate, the holes don't quite line up with the bottom plate, and I also flip it around, try to get it to fit. Yeah, I think that's because these things probably have the holes offset, so it actually fits the top plate. But whatever, you can see I used regular standoffs, and in this version where I built it, it fits fine. It's a little bit flexed. You can see here it's a little bit flexed, but that's okay. No problems there. This frame, okay, the biggest difference between these two frames. This one has like one step lower carbon fiber grade, but it's all cut correctly and it's all very strong, and it still feels more sturdy than an alien frame when you flex it. The other thing that I don't know how I missed is that if you're buying a frame like this, don't get anything that has less than 4mm thick arms. This one has 3.5mm thick arms. It feels fine, it feels solid, but it does feel a little bit more flexible than this frame, so I just wouldn't recommend 4mm thick arms. And I know these are not the cheapest frames, and I know Stu is out there recommending these sub $200 ready-to-fly builds, but I think that is a very, very bad idea, because you get into this cheap product, and when you break stuff, it's not the cheapest to replace or repair, and it's a little bit more difficult to repair, and it'll probably break more often and easier, and you get in this cycle of buying this cheap crap, and it ends up costing you a lot more than you think. So if you spend just a little bit more, you're going to end up with a much better product. And I'm not going to go over all the details of these frames. I look for very, very specific cues in how the frame is designed and built. These are my recommendations to beginners, newcomers, intermediates even, and even, I mean, I'll probably build something on this frame someday, because it's freaking awesome. It's 96 grams, 95, 96 grams. It's amazing. Don't buy the cheapest stuff. Just don't. And I don't recommend any of those $18 frames or $15 frames. And like, one of the biggest issues that these Chinese frames have is that they just put holes all over the frame that weaken the crap out of the frame. Like, specifically, you look at the arm mounts, and the picture will pop up to the right. They put like cross slots in there for like 1806 motors or something, and it just weakens the whole motor pattern. The whole thing's gonna crack off. Why? Like, just no, not good. So these are my recommendations for a cheap frame. And I was very impressed with the quality. I'm going to continue to check out value components, value parts, talk to companies about making things more affordable. And I'm not really looking for more affordable. I'm just looking to make it a little bit easier on myself and other people when you crash into stuff and you have to replace things, so it's not so painful, so you can have more fun pushing the limits and doing more things. That's why we get the GoPro with the Best Buy warranty. And so I'm going to keep looking into lower end parts and looking for the best value, because I do think that if you do things correctly, you're not really missing out on a lot of performance or just general construction or anything by going with lower cost parts. You just got to know what you're looking for. So my mission is to find those parts, and that someday I will recommend a build that is the highest value that I could find on the market for the given date. That's it. Don't forget to floss while you're building. Bye-bye. Oh, don't get carbon in your teeth.